Do the trashy pulp novels of the world have anything to offer? Are bestsellers all they're cracked up to be? Here at Terrible Book Club, we explore whether you really can judge a book by its cover, or its ridiculous synopsis. You ever passed a book and thought, ugh, who's reading this? We probably are.
Hello and welcome to episode 201 of the Terrible Book Club. I'm Paris, and this is Chris.
Oh my god, 201? We've done 200 of these?
Yeah, it feels bad. It doesn't feel like an achievement.
Yeah. Nope. I don't feel like I've done much with my life now.
Oh, well, this time on our 201st rodeo, we read Second Ambitions, Last Intentions Book 2 by S.J. Saunders, as requested by our patron Julius the Nice Dragon, who gave us a choice between continuing in the Dunks universe or choosing a new path. Naturally, we were entranced by returning to sci-fi near-future Boston, so we chose to see what Claire the super soldier teen and Glyph, her reverse cyborg companion, were up to. If any of that didn't make any sense to you, well, you might want to go back to episode 165, where we read First Impressions, the Last Intentions Book 1. God, I hate the title of this series.
Why is there a comma in the middle of all of them? It makes no sense. Second
Impressions.
Ambitions.
Second Ambition. I don't know, dramatic pause. Anyway, if you haven't heard episode 165, where we talk about the first book in this series, we actually think it's worth returning to that and listening to that one before you tune in today. And usually we don't tell you have to listen to another episode before you listen to a different one. Like, usually these are just episodic, but I think it's worth it this time because I don't know, 165 is just a great episode. We basically made MBTA and Boston jokes the whole time, so you'll at least catch the fun of that episode, but you'll also hear us talk about a lot of things that we may not touch on in this one because these were pretty different in a lot of ways. Anyway, listen to 165 before this one if you're into it. If not, that's also cool. If this is your first time listening to this show at all, what we do here at the Terrible Book Club is we read books that we assume will be bad based on their cover, title, summary, or some combination of the three. Sometimes, like today, we read books that our patrons, listeners, or friends recommend. So we do the opposite of what most people do when they are in a bookstore or while they're browsing the internet and looking for something to read. Typically, this experiment results in a hilariously disappointing read, but once in a while, we end up liking or even loving the book. In addition to our usual barnyard language, today's episode includes discussion or mention of body horror. We've got some action movie violence, suicide, weapons, obviously, and also some medical experimentation like cloning, mind control, and genetic alteration. So I think, Chris, why don't you go ahead and read us the back of the book summary, the sort of the paragraph that's supposed to pull you in, give us our characters and setting, and then I will read the plot summary that we wrote to help you all understand the main kind of points and movements of the book that Chris so generously wrote for us today. So take it away, Chris.
All right. On the back of the book, it says, so, I think it's safe to say that it's been a crazy few days. Waking up with no memory, meeting an eccentric robot-human hybrid intent on helping me find answers, discovering that I was part of a secret organization that wants to bring the whole planet under heel through controlled terrorism. It's a bit to take in. But now I get to fight back, and if I'm going to have any chance of bringing my old bosses down, I'll need a few more hands, preferably ones as skilled as mine. Now might be a good time to see what my old teammates are up to.
That's a really weird back of the book summary, actually. What's the
Not just because I added the Teen Girl Squad inflection upon it either.
It's just a pretty, I don't know, in media res. I guess the first one was also like that. Now that I'm looking at the notes from the first episode, yeah,
it is. Don't know. So it's on theme, I suppose.
Yep.
But like, I don't know. It doesn't really tell me that much about the book.
Yeah.
Anyway. Characters and setting. We're in future Boston.
But like not too far. It's somewhere between present day and 2099. We're not sure where. So somewhere in the next few decades.
Somewhere, yeah. Although Boston seems real different, if I'm being honest with you. It doesn't really seem like the Boston we know in this book.
Yeah, things took a turn in book 2. Anyway.
For our characters, we've got Claire Jemima Stevens, our protagonist and super soldier / anime sword haver / former member of Scalpel, the secret organization that was mentioned in that summary before. Glyph, the helpful reverse cyborg, and what we mean by that is that he's a robot that sometimes takes human bits and attaches that to himself to enhance or otherwise just be a little bit more human, I suppose. We have Lucas, Annika, and Roger, also former Scalpel members. We have Abriel, Freddy, and the rest of the Midicans? I don't know how you... This is another pronunciation fight
I think it's just from Warhammer, dude. Like, I think...
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know Warhammer that well, but how would you say... Is it Midicans or Midicans or Mytikans?
I mean... I think these
are my Tykans. You can't have them.
Well, I think popularized by Warhammer, but I think the word is. I want to say it's. Actually, I've seen it referenced in both Greek stuff and also in. Hang on, please hold for word etymology.
Looking up the word, what my Tykans might mean and come from, or if it's just something the author made up.
Well, there's definitely, like I said, definitely popularized by Warhammer, but I feel like, I swear I've seen it in other contexts that are not.
Warhammer has now taken over history for the etymology of this world. You actually can't find it anymore because of Warhammer.
Mythicus is a Greek town. It's Mythicus in Greek. But, so the Mythicans would, but they probably say Mythicans. I don't know. So, it's a place in Greece. I think they'd be
vegetarian instead of Mythican, but, I mean, all right.
Wow, okay. All right, it's Greek like I thought. Moving on.
Okay. Now we also have President Gillenwater, who is the president of the southern states of America, and Scalpel high up because America went through Civil War II, I suppose, and split.
Or 3? I think it actually had, there was like
3
of
them. I don't know how you get up to 3. Like, what happened in 2 that you need to do a third time? And then we have Jemima Stevens, the Scalpel leader and Claire's grandmother. Oh my God, spoilers.
Yeah, well, I'm sure people care.
It's also corny.
All right, thank you, Chris, for writing this summary I'm about to read. Again, this is just going to give you kind of the major plot points and our experience of reading the book so that when we are complaining or talking about things in the book, you kind of know what we're talking about. Claire Stevens just freed her friend and former super soldier squad mate Lucas from suspended animation. She's gonna need the help since she, well, technically a clone of herself that she now has the memories of, recently killed the president of the northern United States who was secretly working with her former ultra-secret organization, Scalpel, to do the same thing we do in every ultra-secret organization, Pinky, try to take over the world! Except Lucas is like, nah, I'm gonna go see my family and my girlfriend now that I'm out. Later, Claire and her reverse cyborg pal Glyph decide they may as well try to free her other 2 former squad mates, Roger and Annika, since Scalpel no doubt heard about them breaking Lucas out and will inevitably move to relocate Roger and Annika before Claire and Glyph can get to them. Although we really have no evidence of that. That is just a pure assumption on their part.
Yep.
They take off to try and intercept Scalpel, but are stopped by a mysterious woman and her own secret paramilitary organization, who reveals to Claire that they were in contact with Claire's now deceased best friend, Chris. The woman, who's named Abriel, and her team, along with Claire and Glyph, move to stop some Scalpel trucks that, of course, have Roger and Annika on board. A chase sequence occurs, and they are... the bad guys are actually thwarted by a Boston road, which sounds about right. They managed to free Annika as a result.
Construction happened, and oh my God, we have to stop.
In the book, they had to take a sudden hard turn, and it flipped the truck over, and I was like, yeah, that is 100% real. Anyway, they managed to free Annika due to the Boston streets. The Scalpel still makes off with Roger, though, and everyone returns to Abriel's secret compound immediately, which seems like a bad idea if the bad guys are hot on your trail. Anyway, it turns out the secret headquarters is just some fucking factory building in Boston. There's some hemming and hawing between Claire and Abriel about who's leading the charge against Scalpel, and we get a little bit of Annika and Claire reminiscing. Then, it's time to lead an assassination attempt on President Gillenwater, who's president of the southern United States, who is in town to pay his respects to the now dead president of the northern states that Claire's clone killed in the first book. Abriel's resident techie, Davith, has the iPad of the gods or something so he can figure out where Gillenwater is going to be, make a whole plan of attack, and also shut down any security cameras in the area. That sure was easy. Except they forgot that hologram technology exists, and to consider that. So when the bullet Abriel fires at Gillenwater goes straight through him and into a senator behind him, everyone has to fuck off real quick. Abriel's so mad, and so is Claire, so they separate for a bit after receiving communications from Scalpel showing Glyph and Claire's families being surveilled or detained or tortured by Scalpel agents. Claire finds her brother in a hotel, and Scalpel just kind of lets her waltz in and out. Glyph goes and takes care of business with his family. Reed murders people. Claire retreats to a safe house that Glyph knew about, and Annika shows up along with Ivan, a character from the book who's here now, I guess, even though he was very much a background character last time. Glyph comes back and seems less chatty than normal, after all the murdering, and then they all decide to go find Roger. They easily find the next secret Scalpel site for reasons and enter. It's very obviously a trap, and they are given a choice to either free Roger and Lucas or come for Gillenwater, who is here for also reasons. It's real video gamey. They cut through the Scalpel guards to free Roger and Lucas, then manage to get at Gillenwater anyway, so he's cornered. But gasp, a mysterious woman is here as well, and her last name is Stevens because it's Claire's grandma who's at the head of the whole Scalpel thing. She leaves Gillenwater to die at Claire's hands, of course, but not before Gillenwater activates the secret mind control code word that only works on Annika. Annika starts trying to kill everyone, but eventually regains enough lucidity to shoot herself in the heart. Roger is sad. Claire is angry, so she kills Gillenwater she cuts his ankles or something, and then Abriel kills him, I think, and swears revenge on Grandma. Yeah.
The end.
Yep.
For this one.
Mm-hmm. And then there's a third book after this, which I hope we don't have to read.
You don't want to come to the thrilling conclusion?
Not really. All right, Chris.
How can Boston streets once again thwart the secret world-controlling organization? They didn't account for the potholes and poor infrastructure spending.
They didn't account for the lack of a grid and streets that are actually just like for storefronts.
That's why we're doing this, okay? That's why we're trying to do this whole world takeover thing. It's the only way to fix these goddamn potholes.
I mean, if that was what they were about, I might be more amenable to their cause.
Paris, would you join with a murderous secret organization if it meant the T ran on time?
Oh man, I almost just yelled yes because I might consider it. If the T ran on time all the time, more frequently, and went in to more places, like that might be actually worth some crime, some world order crime.
The only way we can get this working.
Where's Solid Snake when you need him? Solid Snake.
Right. Yeah, I want to play the Metal Gear game that's just about uncovering the conspiracy in the midst of the MBTA and why they can't fucking measure the tracks to be the right space apart. When they build a new extension to the Green Line, it's new. It's not old like the rest of it. It's brand new. And then they got the spacing between the tracks wrong.
And that made it dangerous because the tracks were too narrow. That's also like where I took it for months not knowing this, and then they were like, surprise, it's a death trap. Oh God.
Whoops, we forgot about rulers. Were we supposed to have those on the site?
How many people had to
eyeball it?
How many people had to approve that shit and be wrong about it is always my question, because it's never just one person being like, oh yeah, those specs look right. How many handfuls or dozens of people were like, yeah, that looks right? God damn it. I still say it's because we privatized part of the tea.
Oh yeah.
That's why.
Oh, for sure.
Why? What's the phrase? What's the phrase? Privatize the suffering and
socialize profits.
It's socialize the suffering, privatize the profits, right? It's the other way around.
That's it. That's the way it is.
Anyway, you know what? I was wondering.
We read a book.
No. I have one more thing. So we were just talking about. I was like, "Where's Solid Snake when you need him?" So you know how there was like Solid Snake, Liquid Snake, whatever. What snake would be the New England MBTA snake? What would we get? Would it be?
I don't know. Overtime scam snake.
Hi, it's my cousin Scam Snake.
Corrupted snake.
Possibly. Or maybe maybe Screaming
Snake. There was also
Snake.
Naked Snake and Venom Snake in other Metal Gears. So like go with that as you will.
I feel like Screaming Snake because then he could mimic the sound of the Green Line just screaming.
That's true. Yeah, that turn into Park Street from Boylston. You know the one.
Oh, what about Government Center though?
Listen, if you're not from Boston, the turn that the train makes from this one station Boylston into Park Street, which is like a central artery of like the whole system. Park Street is like central to a whole lot of exchanges and things like that.
It was the first station.
Imagine that you've encased 1,000 banshees and that like you only open up their jars when like you have to give them air to like it's an absolute must. And that is the sound that the Green Line makes every day, every 12 minutes.
Dude, and it's not even just that turn. It's like several parts of different areas of the Green Line. Anyway, Screaming Snake would be in charge of the overtime scam MBTA corruption video game.
It's me, overtime scam Ocelot. I'm here to stand at intersections, point at cars and have donuts. Okay, we read a book.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about the technical overtime construction scam in this book.
I mean, this part was fine-ish. I guess it's acceptable, even though there was like a handful of typos that popped up over here.
Yeah, it was just one of those things where I felt like the editor needed to give it one last pass. Like they just missed that last one. It wasn't too jarring, but you know, I'd fine to give this a pass for typos, formatting, and punctuation because this is like generally competent level of effort here. Like there was an attempt was made.
Sure.
An attempt was made.
Yeah, and there's like natural chapter breaks.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel weird.
Yeah, there's
fine.
Consideration given to pacing and just easy one. Fine. Moving right along.
Cool. Now, plot construction and general coherence here.
Oh,
this is where we find that, once again, the tracks were too narrow and no one really checked out on what was supposed to be happening.
Yeah, we're going to spend a lot of time here.
The plot is so bland, Paris. It's oatmeal with no seasoning or additions added. You just like put the porridge in the oats and you put them in water, not even milk or anything. And sure, it's warm. There's like a sensation.
There's nutrition in there. You know, it's heart healthy.
Maybe. Sure. But like, secret organization that tries to infiltrate the top layers of government to control the world. Fight the president at the end again.
Yeah, we just did that.
A family member is the secret leader. I'm so tired of that. Like, we've done this so many times. It's not like if there's an interesting twist or anything on it. We don't even really get a clear or clearer picture of what Scalpel's endgame or founding philosophy is. We're going to make the world better. But for why and, like, how besides just, like, doing murders all the time?
Yeah, I was really hoping that after the first book, the second book, you know, once I knew this was on our plate for this season, I was like, okay, well, we'll probably get a little more information about what's going on, a little more behind the scenes. No, we get fucking nothing. In fact, I feel less informed than I did in the first book.
Right? But like the comparison that I always have to make when it comes to like cliche action shit is Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
We already brought up Solid Snake here, but I don't know, man. Hideo Kojima has this knack for, like, he knows that he's working in the cliche. He knows he's working in the tropey. But, like, when he's doing that, he knows how to use it to present, like, prescient observations on how the digital age would cause misinformation to spread extremely easily, or how governments screw over the people that fight and die for them routinely.
Right.
And his, like, behind-the-scenes ultra-controlling entity that does control the world had different factions and individuals within it that had their own motivations and personal reasons for wanting to alter the course of history. And, like, to be clear, Metal Gear as a whole is still real dumb.
I don't know. I think it's kind of masterful in how it balances the stupidity with the poignant, personally.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Overall, it does have a very stupid, almost parody vibe to it.
Oh,
a lot of the times.
absolutely.
But then it'll hit you with some deep shit that you didn't even realize was going on. So, like, it can be done. You can work with cliches in a way that's interesting.
Yeah,
and this book don't do it.
No, this book does not do it. And I just kept thinking to myself, yeah, like, what's the point of any of this? Why do I care about this? It didn't give me enough to care about the plot. I mean, we almost get like a point-by-point same ending as we did in the last book. It's like, oh, wow, they're in an office building, and the big bad evil guy is in a couch instead of an evil chair. Like, wow. Oh,
he upgraded.
You know? And, I mean, I guess we get a little more of a reveal. You know, we find out who the real big bad guy is behind the big bad guy, you know, the bigger bad guy.
But, like, for what? Like, what does it even matter that it's her grandma? Why does it matter? Why do I actually care?
Well, and that's the thing, is it's not as though the grandma was a character. The idea of Claire's grandmother never enters the story until the reveal, which I fucking hate. I hate that it's like, oh, and by the way, we're just pulling this out of our ass cheeks, like, right at the end. I wouldn't have been happy, but I would have been happier if it was like her dad that was supposed to have been dead or something, which is what I was like, oh, it's probably going to be that. And I'm guessing the author was like, oh, that feels too obvious, so I'll make it the grandma. But I don't know, both suck, in different ways.
Because there's no build up to it. The payoff isn't like, oh, it turns out the grandma that we spent scenes reminiscing about, or like, if we had some sort of build-up where Grandma was always talking about how the world would be bad and someone should stand up and do something to fix it.
Yeah, and if Claire had a relationship with her, but in reality, they're estranged. They never even met each other. So why does she give a shit? Like, yeah, it would have been different if they had a relationship of some kind. Yeah, I don't know. Again, we get no idea why anyone cares about anything. And similarly with like how we don't get a sense of why the bad guys are bad, we also don't understand why the good guys are good. All they want to do is push back against the bad guys. And guess what? They've also got a well-funded secret organization. So it's like, who fucking cares?
Okay, we sort of vaguely handwave that I guess Abriel and Freddy come from like a wealthy family, kind of,
yes,
or something.
They do.
Like, do they? But like, how is that going to fund a group of teenagers?
No. They have a benefactor.
Oh right, yes, that's
I forget
true.
their benefactor's name, but it's basically you're just finding out that the Midikins or whatever are just the other Scalpel. It's like, okay, red versus blue.
Yes.
All right, whatever. But
even that, it's not like we dive into like the opposing philosophy.
Nope,
there's this
none.
vague glance at Abriel being like a little like she's not even really that torn up about using violence to like get at her goals. Claire is kind of for like half a second. I think Glyph is more like, hey guys, maybe we should consider this for like half a minute. But like we don't even, you could have used Claire and Abriel as like a dichotomy, right? Of like two people that kind of want the same goals, but they don't have the same methods,
right?
Which is like classic action movie shit. But we don't even get that.
No, we don't.
And like just to add to the coherence aspect of this, everyone in the Mydicans it's like teenagers to like young 20-somethings who are apparently like also super soldiers or good fighters or like super techie types or mechanical engineers.
Very confusing.
And it just strains believability. So like Abriel's out here like riding motorcycles and like taking shots with Uzis while moving through things. Like equivalent to Claire in ability.
Right.
So what has Claire's training really been like? Why did she have to go through all of that?
Yeah, and it's not like, oh, well, I think they're trying to paint it as like, well, the Mydicans only take recruits that want to be there, whereas Scalpel tricks you into joining their cause, but it's like, I don't know, they didn't, like, not really. I don't know, I mean, I feel like, you know, the kids didn't understand that they'd maybe be murdering the president and getting brainwashed, but they were, like, on board with being super soldiers, like, in an organization at first. So I don't feel like there's definitely not enough nuance. We don't go deep enough into any of this stuff. It's real boring.
I really just want to say that, like, Super Teen Squad, that's experts at everything, just strains believability. Yeah. I know there's talented people out there. There's talented kids doing crazy, wild shit all the time. But for all of them to be, like, super amazing at the stuff that they do, and, like, Davith with his, like, I can just tech anything at any point.
Hundreds of them localized entirely within Boston at this time of year. In this century.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Those seems
so. Just the cherry on top, by the way, I have to add this like coherence or believability thing on top of here. At the end, they're going through the office building, and you know they're dodging the soldiers, and there's turrets in the ceiling, and like Claire turns her back and starts running at Gillenwater, and the turrets shoot at her, but like all the bullets bounce off of the sword on her back.
Yeah, I made a point about this
God
in the notes.
for that.
In the notes later. So
listen. It's not like she's carrying Cloud's Buster Sword or Guts Dragon Slayer. Like it's not that level of anime sword where it's like extremely broad and huge and it could believably like bounce bullets off of your back. It sounds like it's just a regular fucking sword, man. So all of the bullets hit the sword.
Yep.
It's just that's a huge strain on the believability for me, to the point where I just laughed when I read that. I was like, oh, fucking of course.
Yeah, so I had a part about this in the next section for rules following.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize I overstepped.
Yeah. Yeah, you fucked that up, Chris. That's fine. So in terms of rules following, actually, I guess maybe I'll just toss this in there. Can you see through the eyes of your own hologram? Just asking for a friend, because like the Southern United States president is a hologram, and they don't realize until they shoot through him and kill another senator accidentally, and the hologram like turns and smiles at them like knowingly, and I'm a little confused about how that works, because isn't a hologram just a projection? See through a hologram?
Well, it is, but I feel like in every sci-fi story I've seen where they have the hologram communication room, the hologram is acting as if they can look at and see the person they are communicating with. But to be clear, that's like in a predetermined communication room, right? Like where you have like a bunch of cameras around or something,
right,
and this is out in the open.
Or like there's a device, and here it's like it's very unclear as to where it's being projected from. It's talked about as though it's just on its own, just gramming it, just just out there. So I don't know. That was, I mean, a minor point, but it was something that made me go, I don't know about that. In terms of rules, like Chris was just talking about the sword bullet thing. Yeah, the action stuff was pretty stupid in this one. There was some silly stuff in the first book too, and that, you know, unfortunately is consistent here. You know, and it's one thing if you give us an in-world reason why the bullets only hit the vertical thin stripe of the sword on her back.
Yeah.
When it's a turret gun, I don't know what that would be. Like Chris's example was actually pretty good. Like maybe the sword is actually as wide as her back, and it's actually like a shield as well. I mean, fine, I guess, but that's not what this is. in addition to that, we've got like no one gets hit ever. I feel like we're reading Monster Hunter International again, where like the sheer number of bullets described is cartoonish to the max, and it's impossible to feel like there's any stakes when no one ever gets hit. The only people who get hurt are the people who get like, there's like Lucas who gets kidnapped and tortured, and I think Ivan is like a little hurt, but it's like before he gets to them. Everyone's sort of in the Midikins or in their group, like no one ever gets hit. Everyone's fine. And the only person who dies at the end, besides maybe one of the big bad guys, is Annika, who kills herself, by the way. So
the only way.
Again, like, okay, if you want to have a couple people, like one or two people who have superpowers or whatever, but when it's everyone in the story, it's just like, I don't care anymore. It just makes me feel like
you don't have the heart to actually kill your characters, which is never good in service to a story, I feel like.
No.
You know, if it involves violence and things like that. Obviously, if it's like, you know, just a story about...
My Little like Pony has to end with death.
Yeah.
Speaking of, why is everyone sad that Annika dies when they can just, like, get a clone of her? Did I lose the thread on that one? Or because it seems to me...
I know. This is weird because I guess it doesn't count because that's original, real Annika, right? And the clones don't really count. Or like even if you revived Annika as a clone, it wouldn't really be Annika. But then I guess that means like fuck that Claire that was in the first book because she was a clone. At the end of the first book, that clone Claire... dives out the window with the president of the northern states to like kill her, and then like the real Claire wakes up,
and they are able to port the dead Claire's brain into the OG Claire. So my question is like, why wouldn't you do that with Annika and just port her brain into a clone, and then you got Annika back, right?
Sure, and this like raises the question of like when a body dies and that like memory stops, is that like really an entity dying, or is it the continuation of the consciousness of another body?
Well, but this book, but
it doesn't play with it at all. It doesn't do anything with that.
But this book seems to believe that it's the extension of the consciousness and the memories, and not the body that matters. So, which is where I think we landed with the first book. So I don't get it. They're like, oh no, Annika's dead, and they bury her, and I'm like, what the fuck? Just bring her to a scalpel, just fucking get a clone and port her brain over. We did this with Claire. Why are we not doing it with Annika? So that seemed just to not be in step with, you know, the rest of the world of the book.
I agree.
Also, like, her shooting herself in the heart is just really, I know laughing at a suicide sounds silly, but like, it was real stupid in the book. And it also just seems to happen just to be a very dramatic ending instead of it feeling organic. It feels extremely forced.
Why does the code word incision red that Gillenwater yells only work on Annika? If you had a fail-safe to mind control one of the super soldiers, why wouldn't that also work on the... Or I get it. Maybe you don't want to set them all off at the same time, so you have different code words for the others. Did Grandma only give Gillenwater the word for Annika for funsies? Like,
no.
You know, why not?
The in-book reason is that Annika fought too much when trying to be put in the tank. So they did it last minute, and I was like, that's very stupid. I do not buy that at all.
If you have the ability to do that to your super soldiers in your global takeover organization, it feels like a real easy
feels like an
step to just do
checkbox.
It. Like, also, if you can do it last minute, it's not like it takes a long time, or it would be like a budget constraint or something, right?
It seems really stupid to include that, like you said, just one of them, because, she fought a lot. Wouldn't they all have fought a lot? Go into the fucking tank? Oh, my God. I just felt very silly.
Do we have any other points to make on this topic?
Yeah, on this same topic, there's a moment towards the end when they rescue Lucas from the torturer, and Claire is like right up near him, and she's like, he's not a hologram, brainwashed clone, or a doppelganger. Guess Scalpel knew that this close they couldn't take any chances. And I was like, bitch, you didn't know you were a clone the whole first book. This is, again, this is not consistent. and it's like implying that you'd be able to tell the clone from the real person just by being close to them, which is not what we've established in the fucking book so far. God damn it.
Is it a smell thing? Like, are the pores bigger? Like, you don't even know why. She's just like, I know. Like,
it's just inconsistent.
They have the Ditto eyes from Pokemon. Like, when Ditto turns into another Pokemon, like the eyes are beady and weird. Like, oh, it's actually really obvious.
But they don't give you any indication that's the case, especially when the first book establishes that you can't tell. In fact, the character herself didn't know she was a clone, right? So just, God damn it, just stick to the world you've built. Build it soundly. Build those good walls, good foundation. And then there's back to the whole, in terms of rule following, we talked about this a little bit, but I guess my point is a little more narrow here. In addition to this whole, like, unquestionable, well, we got the bad guys and the good guys, and they just bad and good because they bad and good. Claire, there is a moment where Claire is fighting with herself over, maybe murdering the heads of these organizations actually doesn't make any sense, since they clearly have a vast network and probably have a bench of potential big evil bad guys to just take their place if we kill them, right? But then she just settles on, like, but I don't know, I guess it's the best plan we have. And I was like, is it though? Aren't you a bunch of super smart super soldiers and, like, tinkerers? Maybe take a fucking breather and think a little harder about how to tackle the problem. But no, we have to be all gun rooty tooty shooty about it.
Well, to be fair, the whole book, they're like, I wish we could get Roger out of Scalpel because he's the tactics guy. It sounds like Roger's the only guy that, like, thinks at all about anything. And he's the tactics guy because he could just step back for a minute and be like, I don't know, guys, maybe you can just hold your horses for 1 second.
Yeah. I don't know.
It would have been funny if in the book they, like, got Roger out and he was like, yeah, we should just fucking kill him. Like,
I don't know. It's very difficult to buy all of this. I'm just not into it. Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Okay.
Character quality, Chris. Let's talk about character quality.
I mean, it's very clearly doing the popcorn action movie thing, so you have that level of character. I'm not going to say it's total cardboard cutout all the time because, like, Glyph has a little personality, right? Like, there's something to Glyph, and each character is differentiated kind of decently. But it feels like each character has, like, the one note, and they hit on it a lot.
That's it.
Claire is rough around the edges hero. Glyph is talky and nice but deadly. Abriel is jerk boss, etc. It's enough if you're, like, into the kind of book just for action fight scenes and the like, I guess.
But Chris, okay,
it just feels real boring to me.
Yeah, this is a medium question. Like, if you could just watch a fucking action movie, wouldn't you do that instead of reading a whole ass book?
Yeah, I agree, because I watched Furiosa, the Mad Max.
Yes,
story,
I also saw
thing.
that. Saw that.
That is a straight ahead, just action shit. But, like, the characters there have a little bit of depth, even though Furiosa actually doesn't have that many lines of dialogue, but that kind of somehow adds to the character. And that movie is nothing but, like, here's 30 minutes of a bunch of people fighting on a truck that's moving, and that was kind of sick and enjoyable.
Yeah, but I think the world of Mad Max actually has quite a bit of gravitas and nuance in it. So the setting that we're working with is very different, and people... I still think that the people are characterized quite well in all of those films.
Chris Hemsworth did great in that movie, actually.
He was fine. I mean, this is definitely probably my least favorite of the George Miller films, but I still liked it, and I just think that you get that sense of desperation, and I love the thing I love about the series. Sorry, this is like a deviation here, is how gray everyone's morals are and how you can't guess what people are going to do because they live in a world of complete fucking chaos and desperation. And I think generally speaking, they're not afraid to just kill people and have horrible shit happen to folks, and show kind of the real dark underbelly of what people can be and become. There's actually a great episode of a podcast about this whole series that I will hawk to y'all right now real quick. If any of you care about the Mad Max movies or about like film analysis, it's something that's close to my heart. Big surprise. I like analyzing media, so I like listening to other smart people talk about it instead of just my dumb ass all the time. Visions of the Wasteland on George Miller's Mad Max films. It is about... I don't know. It's a bit long, but I think it's worth listening to. It's like probably an hour and a half long. Anyway, it's pretty good. I think it's, point being, George Miller's Mad Max films, I think, can be challenging for a lot of different reasons. This book, not challenging at all. Not nuanced, not showing us anything, not confronting us with moral quandaries or with puzzles, or
you even could have had like the similar revenge story, right? Like Claire is like doing the revenge thing, and like none of the notes that we see in Furiosa are here. Not that Furiosa is to be upheld as like the quintessential revenge. It's just a good counterpoint to what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think it is. And I also think revenge is very different. I feel like in this book, the revenge is very much a straight line. It's like, I want to take down Scalpel because they made me a super soldier, sort of against my will. Not really against my will. I agreed to it, but then I thought better of it. And then, some people I like or love died as a result. And that's it. Like, there's no deviation from that. Where I think as the Mad Max films show you how people can deviate from those revenge, paths sometimes, or how those paths can be very zigzaggy and not exactly a straight line. Anyway, would love to talk about movies with some of you more another time. But nope, instead we're here. I think back to this book. All right, Mad Max stuff over, sadly. Back to this shitty book. I know the author is really trying to do the whole, like, what's the line between human and machine? But it just felt like really low level, and I kept wanting more of that. But I think that also could have just been because this felt like it was for younger readers, right? Like for middle school or something. Did you get that sense? I did.
I don't know. It's hard. I guess maybe like it's just in the sort of like it's anime sword haver super soldier person, like in that sense, I guess.
Yeah, and on the topic of, Glyph, because again, Glyph is our vehicle for this light discussion that's happening, generally speaking, although Claire was in the first book too. We really kind of forget about Glyph and his weirdness, that except for the fact they keep talking about how he has one of Claire's eyes, you kind of forget that he's a robot who harvests human organs and body parts and grafts them onto himself. And I feel like that was something we really enjoyed about the first book, is how weird, that sort of uniqueness of the character. And then he had a little bit more of a function. Here, I feel like we lost a little bit of that.
He stopped doing it in this book.
Yeah, and I will say another good thing about this is that we continued from the first book with the lack of like sexualization of female characters, and I mean there's kind of Ivan sort of gets creepy for a second, but it goes away immediately. And we also have like the dudes in the book aren't cool just because they're like jacked or hot. Again, it's about people's abilities, not about their appearance. And I still gotta give some props for that because there's a lot of books we read where that's not the case. So good. Glad that held out. However, I'm gonna be real mad right now because we lost something that was really critical. Really critical in the first book. In the first book, Chris and I were very pleased that there were all these platonic friendships. There was no romance. It was great. We could just talk about how we cared about each other, even though we didn't want to bone, didn't want to be in love, didn't want to fucking get married, right? Ruined. Ripped from us cruelly in the second installment.
No one's safe.
What? Just keep it cool, Saunders. Why'd you do this? Book Chris, there's a character in the book named Chris. Book Chris and Claire didn't need to secretly be in love, and Annika and Roger didn't need to have a romance either. It just felt like it was just there to be like, oh, weren't the only deaths that happened even more sad because maybe they could have fucked a little? And it's like, no, why? What a fucking writing sin. Oh, just don't do it. Don't do it. You don't have to do it.
Yeah, I gotta agree on that point. Just because, again, we praised that point before, and I was kind of hoping we would get to continue that somewhat. And even the glyph stuff that we mentioned a second ago, that didn't really continue either. It's like all the good stuff kind of just didn't keep going, except for the part where, it's more about people's abilities and things that are praised. I just want to have a quick point about, like, Abrielle's character. It seems like the author is trying to say something using Abrielle about, like, oh, you're just as bad as Scalpel.
But then he forgot, like 60% of the way.
It just, like, doesn't really get talked about that hard. It's like he's beginning to try to set that up, and then it's like, actually, no, they're just going to kill everybody. It's fine. Don't really think about it that hard.
Yeah, it seems like she's going to be a pivotal character, but then she actually doesn't matter at all. She could have not been in this book.
Yes.
It didn't matter. Like, the whole Midican thing, they could have not existed, and this book still could have happened. Claire still could have done all the same things she did, and the story would have ended the same.
Glyph could have just had the godly tech skills. It could have just been Glyph.
Yep, and they could have just, I don't know, raided more scalpel bases for fucking, tools and weapons and stuff. There's nothing worse than when I read a book and I'm like, wow, I could have removed most of the story and it still would have had the same rising and falling action, the same outcomes. Nothing would have changed. These characters didn't matter. Congratulations. You just tacked shit onto your book that didn't actually contribute to the story. Ugh.
Okay.
Sorry.
Are we ready to score this?
I guess so.
-1. Easy. -1.
I don't know. I mean, as much as I disliked it, I feel like, I don't know. Do we give zeros when the plot at least plots, even if it's not very good? Or
but I don't even think this plotted that well for all the reasons we came up with, where it's like you could have gone about this in vastly different ways.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not willing to give this a 0.
All right, -1 it is. Moving on.
Okay. Prose and dialogue.
All right. Yeah. Moment to moment, how are we feeling about this?
A lot of the time, the prose seems fine and functional.
Functional is a very good way to put it.
Yeah.
Just very,
the action scenes,
basic.
Actions.
Yeah, sure.
There was like that truck chase scene, and then like the raid or assassination attempt on Gillenwater.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I knew where people were. I knew like what the goal was and like the obstacles that were in front of them. So that part worked fine. Did
it fit your action scenes and sex scenes theory? Because
I actually haven't considered that yet. I suppose, right, again, I knew where things were happening. I knew who was involved and like what the goal was, like I said just a minute ago. So yeah, I'm gonna say sure. Like if a sex scene was written like this, I'd be happy. In a similar way, I wouldn't be excited. It wouldn't be like an amazing one.
Yeah. I mean, action stuff was fine. I did feel like sometimes the scenes went on a little too long. And they're also very samey because it's like, well, every time they all get away and everything's fine and no one gets hurt, no one gets shot, no one dies, everything's cool.
I don't know what the equivalent of that in a sex scene is. I guess if everyone comes all the time, that's like that's what the equivalent.
That's equally unrealistic, Chris. Yeah, that would make sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And okay, this is gonna sound really nitpicky, but when I'm already not enjoying a book, my terrible little antennae are heightened. And man, there was a weird obsession in this book with the main character growling. In a book that's a little over 200 pages, the main character growls or growled or growling. It happened 29 times, which feels like too many to me. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
You start to notice after a while, right?
After it happens like three times, I'm going to start noticing. And I started highlighting them all. And then I counted them all by the end. 29 growls. That's too many growls. Too many growls.
Is this a woman or a small dog who's afraid?
Even if it was
around?
a dog. I mean, I just want the writing to be a little more inventive. It's just so bare. Like you said, it is functional. It does the thing, but it never goes beyond that. And in this case, it's sort of, I mean, I get by using growl, you're trying to evoke a certain type of speech or sound from a person that's, rough or guttural or gravelly, or see, I'm just pulling this out of my ass, and I've already got a few right there, and I just expect a little more from a published work. So 29 growls is about 26 too many, I'd say.
All right, let's talk about dialogue now, which again felt largely functional to me. I guess I liked Glyph a little because he was the one that had the most character.
Yeah,
he spoke.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's kind of always going on and on about etiquette, or sort of like going off on tangents about human society at large, which is, I guess it's kind of charming in a sense. He was the only person that I looked forward to reading any of the dialogue of, and even that's kind of a stretch.
I was gonna say, if you're looking forward to things, man, that's crazy. I know. Yeah, I think he had some all right lines. Like, for example, here's a good Glyph line. Actually, the best one in the whole book, I think. What's a Glyph voice, Chris? What's a Glyph voice? How should I do Glyph? I
guess like a little robotic, like but he's like not totally monotone, right? So
maybe more like Data, I think.
Sure, yes.
My sincere gratitude for the update on our position, miss, says Glyph. I have a rather infuriating tendency to lose my bearings once I'm within 100 meters of my objective. I find it hard to express my joy that my hardware shortcomings will not be our undoing this day. I gain far too much delight from the sneer on Abriel's face. You should probably know, robot, she growls, that I barely tolerate sarcasm from humans. And I, likewise, have little patience for those who treat etiquette like a cantankerous relative to be ignored, Glyph shoots back. I've told you my name. It would mean ever so much to me if you would kindly use it. Whoa! Burn!
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, it wasn't that extreme.
Fuck off, lady. Be nice. Be nice. Yeah. Glyph just wants people to be nice.
He's just like, look, man, my name is Glyph. This is my name. Call me by the name I'm asking you. I'm asking you to call me by this name. Call me by the fucking name. Let's see. I have got some... Oh, you know what? This is a good piece of writing. I thought the use of onomatopoeia by this author was actually pretty good every time. It's like one of his strong suits, I think. So let me just read this little section. It's in like an action section, right? I barely jump back in time to keep my face intact as a sharp metal disc whizzes past my cheek, embedding itself in the lacquered wall behind the desk. Your reaction time is improving, says Glyph, his skull giving a fierce click when I fix him with a glare. That was meant to be a compliment, miss. Right, I mutter, clutching the hilt of my sword as I prepare to spring into motion. It's not every day we humans suddenly get dropped in a larger body, you know? I'm doing my best here. And it's a marvelous job, I'm sure, Glyph placates. But perhaps I was right in thinking that tonight's excursion could have been delayed to accommodate your unique situation. I give another grunt, monitoring my opponent's amorphous outline in the wall's reflection. If I don't go after them, they come after me. We have to move while Jansen's people are on their heels. Quite so, miss, says Glyph. I merely think that there was a compromise in our viewpoints you might have I don't hear the rest. If the reflected shape in the wall is any indication, I've just been given my window of opportunity. My opponent is switching weapons. Sure don't plan on making this easy, do you, Lucas? Keeping him at the edge of my vision in case of quick recovery, I dart for the nearby door, leaping through as two more discs shook into the door frame behind me. Muffled metallic footsteps pound behind me as Glyph follows, and I hear his shield whoop as it deflects another of the discs. I've rolled back to my feet by the time he's through the door, slamming it shut, and the barrier thuds away, as though desperately trying to mimic a drum set. I thought there's just a lot of like onomatopoeia and like good action-y bit there. So.
Yeah, that's good use of it.
Yeah,
to
for sure.
Illustrate what's going on in the scene that's action-oriented. A loud one, too, with like lots of gunfire and objects.
Yeah, so anyway, sorry, we slipped into a little bit of just regular prose with dialogue. But anyway, there's some like normal stuff. Now I kind of want to do all the alien things, because all the alien shit where it just felt really weird. There's a passage where this is supposed to be serious, and it says, "It's hard to describe the feeling of loss that seems to envelop me like a cold shower." And to me, a cold shower isn't what loss is. Like, it's just a weird way to describe it, like a little bit off. I mean, and I know everyone experiences that differently, of course, but it just didn't cut it.
I actually have the problem with the verb envelop there, because I don't know if a shower envelop... Is that me? Like, I guess it could, right? Like, you get in the shower and you're enveloped by the
You are
feeling
enveloped by the
of
water.
shower.
You're enveloped by the water because you're subsumed under a rainfall.
Yeah, you know what? I'll let that pass. I'm being dumb about that.
No, it's fine, but I don't know.
It's not the word I would use.
Being enveloped by a cold shower is not like the loss of a friend, like the death of a friend. That's not the right feeling for that. I feel like...
Yeah, because like a cold shower kind of wakes you up. It springs you to
yeah,
life.
and it's like
loss
sharp.
And grief
and it's like sharp
is
and
heavy.
Yeah,
and
like weighty.
And
yeah, and again, you know, maybe people just feel these things differently, but it felt weird to me. And again, it's not like it's just one incident, right? Okay, here's some other ones that were kind of weird. Annika doesn't seem to care, parking her rear where Abriel's monitor was perched a few moments ago. But you're not a coward if you go home, Freddy. It just means you know when the cost of fighting back is too much. Sure, maybe you don't even like your parents. Maybe you hate them. Can't say I know you well enough to call it. But if you decide you can't let them die just so you can keep on playing hero, it doesn't mean you're afraid. I catch the edge of her smile. It means you've got some freaking gold in that 24-karat heart of yours. What?
Just a little corny.
20...
Also...
Like, okay, so... But that implies that, like the
24 karat is a rate of just gold,
right? Like
so you wouldn't have some gold if something was 24 karat.
Well, no. Carats are a measurement of gems and precious metals, so it doesn't only apply to gold. But like it's a weird way. Like, I know he's like trying to twist the common phrase that like people have a heart of gold, but it just doesn't work. You know, it's just like awkward. And all right,
yeah,
there's more here. Here's one of my favorite ones. Again, this is like, you know, we're like supposed to be having like serious time or whatever. Okay, this is when Claire's talking to her brother about their family. Deep inside my chest, I feel something break. What? Nate turns back to me, wincing at what he just let slip. Yeah, Mom's in a home, Claire. She just started fading when we lost you. He rubs the back of his neck, avoiding eye contact. I think she tried to be there for me, but after everything she's been through, losing her parents, Dad, our eyes connect. You? I manage a slow nod, letting the news settle on me like a whale. That just made me laugh at a really inappropriate time.
Right? Yeah.
Like I shouldn't...
I guess you're trying to say it's a heavyweight and like a whale big, but like it's too big.
But it's comical.
It becomes
yes,
silly.
exactly. Like the proportion is not right. Like the in that analogy or simile. I got two more short ones. I don't know, and it's like every couple pages I was sort of pausing and going, you know, that seems weird. Here's another one. Like, we got some alien dialogue shit. This is when they are first with like Abriel and her team. Oh, right. This is at like the start of the truck chase, or like right before it, I think. Yeah, right before it. Start. If you don't mind my asking, Glyph says towards Abriel's back, and even if you do, how do you intend to lose the cameras? I glance up, seeing that his concerns are justified. Many of the news drones are trying to keep pace, their operators probably hoping to emerge as heroes for assisting in the arrest of so many terrorists. Abriel looks over her shoulder, then up at the drones. Freddy, take care of that, will you? Yes'm, boss, says the tall, brown-haired man with Freddy's voice, dropping back and pulling a small ovoid device from inside his tattered black jacket. Are the gliders all grounded? If they bother following orders, says Abriel, brushing past her underling. Because we're such a well-oiled machine, Freddy mumbles, pressing a series of buttons on his device as Glyph and I approach. Just as Glyph prepares to sidestep the man, Freddy looks up, wiggles his eyebrows, and says, Yawa smob. By the time I realize what he said in reverse, Freddy's hurled the device skyward, emitting a childish giggle when the news drones explode in sparks and plummet to the rooftops. His boyish features lit up with pride. Freddy stares up at his device. What a radius, he whispers. Why does he say bombs away backwards to them? What? It's so weird.
Is it a backwards bomb?
No.
Does it go reverse?
No. Oh.
Is it the activation word for the?
No.
Yes, it does. I don't understand it either, man.
Fucking weird.
It's just a weird choice.
Yeah, and again, there's just so many of these very small but very deeply strange choices that it just made me. The problem with stuff like this is it takes you out of the story, right? And you're like, well, I was paying attention, and now I don't really care.
Now I just have to think about why would you say that? Why? Like,
okay, here's another. Okay, here's the last one for now.
Imagine you're in the middle of that situation and like you're like leading a charge on some trucks and a dude just goes "Yawas Bob" and you're like, what? What do you mean?
Like, dude, we're trying to do terrorism here. Like, I can't. Like, we can't be. Can't be using fucking pig Latin. Like, get out of here. That's the other thing. It's not like they've established some kind of protocol to mask their words. This is just out of nowhere. This character is just like, yeah, that's Bob. And you're like, what? It's so weird. All right, last alien example, although there are more in the book. This is when they get a communique from Scalpel, where Scalpel sends them a bunch of videos of each of their like family members or loved ones either being captured or menaced or something, or tortured in Lucas's case, or like interviewed or something. And there's this part where Abriel and Freddy and their sister, I don't know, their parents are being questioned or something by Scalpel. So it's describing this like weird video. My heartbeat slows a little as I try to understand the significance of the scene before me. A middle-aged man and woman I somehow recognize look calmly into the camera. The woman's hands are folded gracefully over her crossed legs, remaining absolutely still for fear of creasing her snug, though elegant, blue dress, while the man, sitting as far as possible from the woman on a spotless leather couch, brings an almost molecular sandwich to his mouth, his well-trimmed beard barely creasing amid muted chews. Slowly, the woman leans forward, blatantly attempting to display what must be thousands in plastic surgery bills. And Freddy? What has that boy gotten into now? Her lips, buried in what manages to be a pretentious shade, are creased in a playful smirk, as though she really doesn't care what response she might receive. Your boy's in no trouble either, ma'am, says a deep, even voice from behind the camera. Freddy's been a model student, just like your girls. As I said, this is simply a friendly visit to discuss their scholastic achievements and bright futures. The man on the couch swallows his bite-sized sandwich, leaning back to gesture at the affluent backdrop behind him. Let's drop the act, Mr. whatever your name was. You're obviously here to ask for money. Okay, so, like, I'm very confused by the mom leaning forward and displaying plastic surgery bills. Like, why would that be happening when a stranger comes to your house asking about your kids? Why would that ever be happening, first of all? But it's super weird.
I'm also mystified. Is she just like, I bought these boobs. Everyone's going to see them.
Oh, maybe you're right. Sorry, maybe I thought she was literally holding bills and leaning
Paris,
forward.
No. No. Paris, it's her boobs. It's a euphemism for boobs because she got breast implants.
Okay, well, I'm gonna say this is the
It could also be like facial surgery and stuff.
I feel like this is the author's fault.
Took that extremely literally.
Well, listen to the way it's written. Well, because they're talking about the husband literally eating a sandwich and his small mouth, and then they're talking about the wife, and she's leaning forward and displaying bills, right? So I'm making that parallel where, like, we're talking about something the father physically has, and so I'm like, okay, we're also talking about what the mother physically. Anyway, it's still weird.
It is, but it is weird. Right. Yes, it's just not in the way that you anticipate. Because this is a person coming to her home who, like, also it's weird that you would invite someone to her. Like, I'm just here to talk about how cool your kids are and how they're doing in school, ma'am. And you're like, what? Like, why would that require anything? And your reaction to the person that is praising your children is to, like, try to be flirty or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they were trying to play up this mom as, like, shallow, but it doesn't matter. She's not an important character. Yeah, this is the whole scene is kind of weird in general. And again, I'm only taking half the blame for that misinterpretation. I still think it's written in a way that's confusing and weird.
I would agree.
The behavior is still alien. Anyway, thank you and good night. That's it for dialogue, I think, unless you had anything you wanted to read.
No, I think that's plenty to demonstrate. I think we can go ahead and score this section.
Okay.
I don't like a 0, maybe. It's right.
Yeah.
Like, it's not terrible. It's not amazing. So it's right down the middle of, like, I guess.
Yeah.
It's that, like, it's store brand action movie shit. It's nice brand. I'm not gonna pay the extra $1 for the name brand taste of microwave food, so I'm gonna go with the fucking Walgreens lasagna or whatever.
Nice sci-fi action terrorism movie.
I don't know why I always rip on Walgreens store brand names the most,
because nice. It's like, at least Target tries. They're like Good and Gather, Archer Farms. They sound like brands, but nice exclamation point does not sound real.
It sounds like you're trying too hard, right? Like nice exclamation points, like, but not hard enough at the same time.
Well, right, and it's not like those store brands that are just like fucking CVS Essentials. It's CVS brand. We put it on there, or whatever.
Or like BJ's Wellesley Farms. Everything is from Wellesley Farms if you go to a BJ's.
Which is funny because we have a Wellesley here.
Yes.
But now I'm thinking, what are some really funny... Oh, you know what? The Walmart Equate brand I always found kind of like...
Equate? What?
They're like, yeah, we're equivalent. Equate. I kind of like that one.
I didn't realize that was the brand name that they used. Like,
I don't know.
Yes,
that might be
equal.
That might be an old. I mean, this is like something I remember from a long time ago, so that might not be true anymore. And then what's the other? Like, I just love that CVS is like, yeah, it's just CVS Health brand. It's just us, the brand. Yeah. Like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
What's another?
Don't go too crazy, guys.
What's a good one? Like a fake fucking brand. Oh man, there's a good one. I'm trying to think of what it is. Oh, I mean, Trader Joe's is the king of like racist fake brands that they love to make up. It's so terrible.
That's true. Listen, Trader Joe does not have to be like Trader Jose when it's in the Spanish
so fucked
up. It can still be Trader Joe.
Oh, fucking Trader Josiah. Like, it doesn't need to be. We don't need to do this.
Oh, Sam's Choice, I believe, is a Walmart.
That's the other one. Sam's Choice. I'm pretty sure Sam wouldn't choose any of this shit because he makes a lot of money.
They also apparently have a fashion label named George. What? No, that's not right. That's like a British thing.
I don't know.
Okay, well, Nice brand is the funniest one.
Nice.
It just seems like
the exclamation point is really what gets me.
Really?
Nice.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Anyway, this category is a 0.
All right. Okay, let's talk about Tereblo's presence here.
Tereblo's presence. It's like the anime sword blocking all the bullets thing is like the blip that we get.
And also the alien dialogue that I just talked about.
Sure, and there's a general plot incoherence here. So our Lord is present. It's here.
Yeah,
it's creeping.
But not
It's like, you know, when you
Not making it.
when you turn into your house and there's just like a house centipede on the wall,
Yes.
like all its legs split out. Like, you didn't expect it to be there, but there it is, and you're like, oh fuck, oh shit.
But it's fine. It's not gonna.
That's kind of how I feel
not
here.
really doing much. So this is 0.
Right, it's not threatening.
0.
You're just like, oh shit, okay,
Yeah,
you're here.
just-
All right, I'll go. You,
Just present, not threatening.
I'll come back later.
Yeah. Okay. So a 0.
Yes.
All right. Great.
Should this exist, Paris?
No, I could just answer that without doing the sub questions. No.
You don't even want to do the sub
No,
questions
we
here?
can. I'm just saying I already know my answer.
Would readers of this genre enjoy this? I mean, I guess if you're the type of person that just wants action movie anything, like you know how there's a billion black metal bands that all have the same black metal sound,
Yes.
and some people are just really into like, I just want blast beats and super trebly production.
I just
all
want
the time.
surf music, but dark.
Yes,
and blast beats.
exactly. Yeah. If you're that type of person, but for generic action movie plots, but even then,
I don't know.
Like, there's so many Tom Clancy and Clone Tansy books out there that are like a better version of this. That I like. This should be at the absolute bottom of your list. Like you should have torn through everything else if you're getting here.
I also just don't think I feel like this is just one of those things that's also not for me, because I feel like if I want this kind of a story, I kind of want to watch a movie about it. I don't really want to read a book about it for some reason.
Sure, I agree that this is like a medium thing as well.
It's
if
a
I want,
visual
like,
medium
stuff,
for me.
I really want the visual.
Yeah.
Or like a video game.
Sure.
Like, again, Metal Gear Solid, right? Like that's gonna. I get to be the shooty guy in that.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Okay. Do we feel as if the author's goal was met? I don't
would say no.
No, yeah.
Because even the glances we get at deeper plot points aren't really explored or dug into at all. So I'm just going to say a flat no to that. I'm not even sure what the goal was. It's so meandering.
I don't understand why the author felt the series needed to continue. That's like my biggest question, because he could have left it with the first book and it would have not been great, but it would have been like, all right, it's your first book. That's fine. But dragging it into a second book that's somehow even more bland and unsurprising than the first one was a mistake, I think.
I can agree on that one.
Yeah.
Does it add anything new, interesting, or novel?
No.
Hell no. In no way whatsoever. This is
No.
an easy no on that one. And did it take something from us? Not really.
Not really.
You know, again, it wasn't truly chaotic in the way that I would have given like a negative one on Teresa's
It didn't do anything extremely horrible. And it didn't take that long to read, so it didn't hurt me, at least.
Yeah. And so in that case, like, I don't think it should exist. So
Yeah,
a -1.
Yeah,
right?
that's a -1. It didn't do anything by existing, I don't think. I don't think it really
Okay.
helped.
So let's score the whole dang thing then.
Alrighty.
Technical construction was a 1.
Yeah.
Plot construction was a -1. Prose was 0.
Mm-hmm.
Terriblo's presence was 0. And should this exist was a -1. So overall, we got a -1.
Hey, that's not so bad.
Yeah, I get, for something that we described as bland, that feels accurate to
Yeah,
me,
it feels
right?
fine.
Like,
Yeah, like you did it. Barely. You barely did it. Great.
kind of. It's still not good, and I would not recommend it, but
No, I
it's
wouldn't.
not terrible in the way that some other books we've read are, so you're not the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah. But then I think about airport books, and I'm like, how many of them are so much worse than this? The answer is probably many of them.
I don't know. I feel like this might be worse than some airport, but I haven't really bought a book at an airport in a while.
I've been in a lot of... Man, I
have.
have flown more... Strangely, I have been flying more from 2020 onward than I ever had my entire rest of my life combined. And I'm always tempted to be like, what's up, Hudson News? But I'm always like, don't do it, Paris. Don't do it. Don't go in there.
Oh, I'm always up in there buying snacks for the plane. Absolutely.
Yeah, but the book,
So-
I'm saying the books. I never.
Yeah, no,
buy
I got
any.
shit on my e-reader. Or
Yeah,
on my
I
phone or
always
whatever,
already
so I'm
already have. Maybe when we're off, maybe after we record the season, I might experiment and do some airport book purchases.
See what's up in there. Don't get Fourth Wing. That shit sucks.
Oh,
anyway, can we fix it, Paris?
Someone's gonna make us read that next year. God.
Fucking drive by on Fourth Wing over here.
Hey, you know what? You want to give us $50 for at least 2 months in a row? We'll fucking read it.
Oh God.
I'd be really upset about it.
My partner's been using it as like go to sleep audiobook stuff because it's free. Like she knows it's on her library
what's wrong
app,
with her.
She needs to have something that's like stupid enough that she doesn't really want to pay attention to it, so that she just needs like the white noise of someone talking.
Why doesn't she listen to boring books for bedtime? That's a great podcast. It's
she has
free.
done that. Also, sometimes I'll just read from the book that I'm reading on my phone to her, and that seems to do the trick.
That's
if
funny.
It's not exactly her style or whatever. I haven't done it to her with a terrible book yet, so we'll see if that works.
Sorry, there's people screaming
Paris.
outside all of a sudden because this is actual Boston.
Can we fix it? And I mean, the plot feels too flimsy. It's Claire and the Midicans going after Gillenwater twice. They always figure out where he is because Davith or Glyph just like know instantly. Even Claire thinks just going after Gillenwater is a bit too rash. So even that feels weak. You could spend a lot more time with Abrielle and Claire ruminating on the trials of leadership. Or when are you just becoming the people that you're out to stop? If you're ready to do violence at the drop of a hat, but we don't do that. You could have a real interesting dichotomy presented between Abrielle and Claire as opposing methods for taking down Scalpel, but they're actually just Rudy Tooty point and shooty about everything, so there's nothing there.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I really feel like this was worse than the first one for a few reasons that we've discussed, and also for reasons that like you'd know if you go back and listen to the previous episode 165, where we talk about the first book. Here we've lost the platonic friendships. We don't get any additional info about the bad guy or good guy motivations. Nothing really changes by the end of the story, except they kill a character stupidly. I feel like the better move would have been to just condense the events of this whole book into a much shorter part of the rest of the story. And there's a third book, so I assume it all wraps up there. Look, like, I know sophomore stuff is always the hardest, really. Like, that's always kind of not an aphorism, but like a common thing people believe. And this book really feels like it demonstrates that. I get it. Like, it's hard to do the next thing after you've done one thing that's pretty good. Yeah, this book has made me, it just makes me go back to that question we've asked many times. Is like, why do you feel the need to publish everything you're writing? Like, if I recorded and put out every song or every musical idea I ever had, it would not be good. So I don't get this urge people seem to have that they just need to put out everything they come up with. It's kind of weird.
I agree. I have folders full of ideas that I'm like, never mind. Or, I might save them for later. Maybe like the next bit that will actually make it work will come to me later. And like, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm not publishing every idea that I have. Even if I have like I have some mostly completed Yearn songs that I'm still like, I don't know. I don't think this is actually that good. I'm going to wait. Or like, just try again with another idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
And there's plenty of Graveborn songs that just get like vetoed by the rest of the band that I've wrote.
Oh yeah, same.
And I'm like, okay, I can use that for later.
Same in my band. I mean, same for me in writing. Like, honestly, I actually really love writing, and I hope to someday do it in a more professional capacity. But I haven't published anything because I'm just not. I don't know. I just haven't like gotten the feeling that the little things that I've sketched out are like worth it yet, right? Or I haven't had the time, and
Same.
I'm never gonna put anything out until I feel at least decent about it. Again, you don't want perfection to be the enemy of good, but I think you also have to have a sense of like when it's worthwhile to hit the publish button, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I think people have been a little corrupted by the temptation that maybe they'll make money off of Kindle or e-publishing, and I that's just a mirage, man. There's no water there. Like, you're gonna die in the desert. Like, this isn't what you think it is. Well, let's
not be totally hopeless. Some people, it happens for some folks, and with books that we assume, or not we assume, but like we have read and be like, that's trash, but it's like horribly popular. So, you know,
sure,
people buy Fourth Wing, Paris.
Oh, they sure do. Yeah, but I think too many people have fallen under that assumption, that spell that like, oh, if I just publish everything, one of them will take off, you know? And I don't know.
True.
Personally, I just think.
Have you seen the ads for like, you can make passive income by just publishing to Audible? And it's just like, you're supposed to just spew garbage into Audible to just like kind of get like a tiny revenue stream or something.
Oh, isn't this
it's like a weird pyramid scheme / MLM Audible thing?
Yeah, isn't this just the Mickelson Brothers scheme that I talked about on the show before? Because Dan fucking Olson did an amazing video about it. Yeah, Dan Olson,
I believe
the man.
It is that.
Right. Yeah, the Mickelson twins. Yeah, Folding Ideas, Dan Olson. He's a wonderful. I actually don't really know what I would describe Dan Olson as, but God, I fucking vibe with his content. It's like always what I want.
Superb video essayist about shit that
that is.
I'm so glad he has the wherewithal to dive into and provide the research on.
I think we've talked. Yeah, exactly. Like I think we've talked about In Search of a Flat Earth. We've also talked about Line Goes Up, the problem with NFTs, wherein he just distilled all of my feelings about NFTs in like a 2-hour video, and I was like, "You are my fucking savior. Thank you for making this coherent, so I can point someone to this whenever they try to talk to me about fucking NFTs or crypto." But yeah, there's one about this weird book MLM scam, and it is related to that. So check out Dan Olson's channel, Folding Ideas, about the Mickelson twins if you're interested in learning more about this weird scam.
Okay. Well, why don't we thank the people that are sending us money? It's not a scam. We actually read the books that you asked us to do. So,
you know what? Yeah, I guess, yeah, hey, we're not a scam. But also, I guess I just want to say that, you know, this author, S.J. Saunders, he's clearly, he wrote other things. Like this is one of his series. Then he has 2 other ones. So presumably he has found some success, maybe. I don't know. I guess maybe this was just sort of the thing that got him started, and that's what he needed to go through it to get somewhere. But yeah, I just wonder sometimes, like, do we need to leave these things out there? Like, once they've served their purpose, should we not put them to bed? Must we publish them all? Must we leave them out there? Anyway,
no one's ever gonna read you again. Don't worry.
Anyway, Saunders, no hard feelings. We just weren't into this. We just weren't into it.
All right. Well, thank you to our patron, Julius the Nice Dragon, for offering this up onto the platter. And thank you to all of our patrons and Ko-fi donors, like our bad bookworms, Anya, Ben, Donnie, Emily, Jakub, Jared, Scott, and Will. Our exacting editors, Carol, Kieran, David, D, Emmy, Funny Robot with Antennas, Greg, Harry7, Martin, Root Beer Cutie, and The Ugly One. Loathsome librarians like Veronica, Senior, Arant, Beast with the Least, Yanka, Luchek, Of the Void, the taco-eating unicorn of the Hot Springs, Patricia, Robin, and Austin, our pesky publisher, Miles May, and our Ko-fi donors like our ever-faithful Kiwi Thing, along with Matthew, Martin, and Brenna, who helped relieve us of terrible books. If you want some terrible books we've read for the show that we have physical copies of, you can buy them over on our Ko-fi page. Will anyone accept the challenge to become an arch-archivist this year? What heinous, monstrous tome will you force us to read? Please not Fourth Wing. Fuck that shit.
Oh, yeah. My workbook club was talking about it.
Oh God, Paris!
No.
You like
no.
The devil you would unleash upon them if terrible book Paris came upon that book club.
No, they already know that I do terrible book club, and I actually.
Do you think they're trying to do it to let's see Paris do her terrible book?
No. They were all talking about it because they had all been. Many of them had been sucked into reading it because it was so popular, and they were all like, "Yeah, that's not very good." I was like.
All right. Anyway,
Paris,
I am off to fight against a secret world-threatening organization because I have the time and energy to do that.
I'm off to fight
fucking time.
I'm off to fight the World Agency of I want food in my stomach, and I'll slay that with more spring rolls I made.
The secret government plots for my rumbly tummy.
Yes, and some taro protein boba drink. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I really hope.
Watch out for those fucking Boston potholes, everyone. They'll undo your whole plot to take over the world.
No, it was a sudden turn, which is a very real thing.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I forget which one Overtime Ocelot was plotting with.
State Police Overtime Scam Ocelot. Really good. Oh, man. Oh, all right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of Terrible Book Club. Terrible Book Club is an independent podcast produced by your hosts, Paris and Chris. Sound design and audio editing by Chris, with sound effects and music by Epidemic Sound and sometimes also Chris. Our theme song is Kiss by Yearn, which is, you guessed it, actually also Chris. You can find more of his soothing synthy sounds on Bandcamp at yearn.bandcamp.com. Do you want us to review a book of your choice on the show? Do you want access to some extra audiovisual weirdness? If so, become a patron at patreon.com/terriblebookclub. If you'd like to send us a one-time tip instead, you can do that at ko-fi.com/terriblebookclub. You can also support TBC for free by sharing the show on social media, following our accounts on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or Goodreads, telling your friends about your favorite episode, or by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or anywhere else on the internet. To send us book recommendations or your adorable pet photos, send an email to terriblebookclub@gmail.com.